Here's what really matters.
Let's talk about what really matters.
No matter what happened on the field, did you see that video of Brady coming out of the locker room with Breeze and his family at the end of the game and tossing touchdown passes to his son and, you know, just being two dads, cool dads that are multi-million-dollar superstar athletes?
I couldn't watch that because of my aberration for Brady. But
is that the vocab word of the day?
Aberration?
I don't think that's how you use that word.
Aberration?
Apparition? I think that's a like seeing
it's
something.
It's ABH. And then I'm lost on the last ones. But yes, might be my aberration of Brady was assumed when he lost the first time when, i.e., he had beaten Peyton 2 times, I think before, at least 2 times, if not 3, in the AFC Championship to go to the Super Bowl. And the first time he lost to Peyton, he didn't walk out and shake his hand. And every time Peyton lost, he walked out and said, "You played a good game, but brother."
David, you know what?
A good loser is my champion.
Listen,
like I was bested today, but I'm going to learn and I'm going to move forward.
But David,
go ahead.
As we transition from intro banter to the actual episode, I just want to leave you with this.
You get the last word, do you?
Calling back. No, you can. I'm just not going to say anything after this. Calling back to a few episodes, we've talked about the light versus dark mentality, the Manichaeism that infects culture at a lot of different levels.
Do you have a red lightsaber?
Hold on.
Or do you have a blue lightsaber?
All I suggest to you is you might, as it pertains to Tom Brady specifically, be suffering from a little bit of Manichaeism because although he is all these evil things, doesn't shake his opponent's hand when he loses and all these other things that make you really want to hate Tom Brady, in that moment, he was a human being.
Well, hold on.
Talking to his friend.
Well, hold on. He was a human being
with his friend's kids.
After the human being got the result that he wanted.
I don't have anything else to say. I'm leaving you with that.
Got the result that he wanted. And all I will say, because I have a platform now, because we have 2 followers, I will say that Tom Brady is a good sport only when he wins. Go ahead. What do we do now, Dane?
Okay, I guess we're dropping in. Weapons of Mean Destruction Podcast, episode 28, coming at your face. On today's episode,
yeah, I mean, you set it up. You set it up, but I wasn't going to play with it. It's good.
Okay. Definitely come over. Check us out at wmdpodcast.com/28 for this episode in particular. Jump in the comment section.
Definitely not 27.
Jump on that email list, but also you can find us on every podcast catcher. Find us on YouTube.
30,
share us with
you're
friends
gonna
and families.
About 3 podcasts.
Like, comment, subscribe so you get notifications when new episodes are up. And let's jump in.
You want to do it?
Let's do it.
Set it up.
All right. So this, well, I don't know if it was the week before last, January 20th, a return to normalcy was going to happen. Joe Biden was going to be inaugurated as 46th president of the United States. David, did you hear that was happening?
What happened? What?
Yeah.
I thought we were still recounting.
A return to normalcy. We'll talk about normalcy a little bit later in the episode. But definitely, I'm not the first one to have this kind of recognition of the state. You know, many people have written about it before and drawn the parallels. But here it is. Here's today's meme, and then we're going to jump in with examples. The meme is statism is a religion. And this is... And
what, Dame?
And when I say this is the meme, it's actually the reverse, because this is not what everybody thinks is true of the state. They just think, oh, well, you got to have it because who would build the roads, and, got to educate, for free, and
you
got to
gotta
provide
have
health
the
care.
infrastructure, and you gotta have this, and you gotta have that. That's what tax-paying money do.
Right. So everybody actually believes the opposite. They just think it's this obvious, self-evident thing that how could you possibly be against it? This thing that human beings have to have. And as a result of that and the power accumulated in it, the state acts very religious-y. It has its clerics who are infallible. It has its relics that you're not supposed to disrespect. It has its hymns, its chants, right, to the exalted. It has the exalted itself.
We believe the science. We believe the science.
Or the president, if the president is your party, or the converse, it's Satan if it's a guy from another party.
For fuck's sake.
So you have that, good versus evil mentality.
Come on.
Everywhere you look, all the way down the line,
There we go.
statism is a religion.
Sure.
And we want to target that right now.
Sure, why not? Why not? I mean, how many people have you talked to this last week that have said, this is the most consequential presidential speech of all time? This is, I was so inspired by the words of the whatever that 21-year-old chick was that had a laureate in poetry before she ever got up there. It's like, okay. Does any of that fix the fiscal budget? Does any of that
any of that bring the troops home?
Does any of that pull all the troops home that we have been deploying to Afghanistan and the Middle East for 1,000 years? Oh, you got a picture of Joe Biden on the telephone. Oh, he's at work now. Holy shit! He's so much further than Trump was ever. And he's the most empathetic president that we've ever had. Let's see what happens. Here's all my optimism, Dane. Don't you dare take a shit on it.
Well, David, listen, you seem to have a lot to say on this subject. I think we're going to allow that to happen, except for the fact that this is one of those very rare episodes where every point, at least on my side of the ledger, every point that I have to make, the state, its apparatchiks, and its apologists have given me the ammo for on live television for all 3 points.
There you go.
Let's jump into the first one.
Let's go.
So, state's a religion. Let's listen to how some of its true believers really think about it. We have a clip here from CNN with the title underneath. I think this was on Inauguration Day. And it says, Biden to be sworn in as 46th president tomorrow. Okay, eve of inauguration. Now, the CNN reporter has something to say about the lead up to the inauguration. Here it goes.
And the contrast on display tonight was so stark. I mean, those lights that are just shooting out from the Lincoln Memorial along the reflecting pool. It's like almost extensions of Joe Biden's arms embracing America. It was a moment where the new president came to town and sort of convened the country in this moment of remembrance, outstretching his arms.
So, Joe Biden, you heard it here first. Well, not here first. Actually, this is going to be on the show notes page, so definitely go there and watch the video. This was a tweet from Not the Bee, the real version, non-satirical version of the Babylon Bee. And that was just a CNN clip that they had posted on Twitter. So, what do you guys think about the lights coming out from the Lincoln Memorial being Joe Biden's arms?
Oh,
David, what kind of imagery does that conjure up?
Well,
old Papa Biden.
It just feels like safety, It feels like that he cares. It also might be that he might be a dad that's been estranged for a long time. And perhaps, just only perhaps, he might be interested in your soccer games.
David, you have something you want to get off your chest?
No, I don't have anything. I'm just saying, like, maybe, just maybe, like, once you walk off the field and you're, Dad, did I do good? And then Dad looks down at you and says, you did okay. I gotta get on the chopper so the Secret Service doesn't see me with your mediocre ass. Bye. So I'm pulling up. I love you, but I totally don't. Bye.
David,
Bye.
am I gathering a theme somewhere along the lines of you don't really know your dad until you know your dad?
I think that that's the
Is that what you're driving for?
It's what I was driving for, but you know.
Okay. Well, you
know me and you know you, so
I think between, Captain Sycophant over there on CNN and David's little commentary, I think you kind of get where we stand on this first point.
What was it?
The idea of big daddy government, he's going to take care of me. He's hugging the entire country. Just the rhetoric and the imagery is just oozing with, oh yeah, you're my father figure, because you brought up something earlier, David. What is it when you're a little kid? What's the first thing you think about your dad? And then
he's a superhero. He's a superhero, and
yeah, dad can do everything.
What can't he do? He can fix the stove. He can fix the sink. He can fix all the other things in our home. Why can't he fix all of the world? Oh my God. Dad can fix all the world. Here we are. Now,
here we are in 20 years in Afghanistan. Here we are, 70, 80 years of the war on drugs and victimless people still languishing in cells. Here we are. Okay, you've heard me go through these lists before. I'm not going to do it again.
Hey, Dad.
Saving time.
Hey, Dad.
We're budgeting on WB.
Hey, Dad. You want to fix some of the shit we have going on here? No, you don't understand. You're too immature. Go back to bed. Go back to bed. Daddy's gonna handle it, but Daddy's gonna handle it in a way that's gonna cost you in about 20 to 30 years.
Your version of Dad has a lot of power. Okay, I like where we're going with this. I like the dad analogy. I have another one to it too.
Let's do it.
How many times? And especially if dad's the disciplinarian, I'm not assuming that he is in every family, but let's assume dad is the disciplinarian, right? The stereotypical thing, right?
Dad's always mom's business, daddy is fun.
Well, I mean, that's one way to go with it, but I'm saying sometimes the dad is like,
that's what I'm saying.
Don't make me go get your father.
I want to throw a wrench in your chain.
Yeah. Okay. What annoys you the most about any parent who steps into that role, mother or father?
There you go.
When they don't follow their own rules, when they say, it's more of a do as I say, not as I do thing.
Hypocrite.
So, on that note, the next media clip we have for you is a nice little 1.5-minute exchange between Joe Biden's press secretary, Jen Psaki, Psaki. So, I could be mispronouncing that. I apologize if I am. She was asked why he wasn't following his own orders that he just issued as president regarding masks. And here is what she had to say.
Why weren't President Biden and all members of the Biden family masked at all times on federal lands last night if he signed an executive order that mandates masks on federal lands at all times?
At the inaugural...
At the memorial, yes.
I think, Steve, he was celebrating an evening, a historic day in our country. And certainly he signed the mask mandate because it's a way to send a message to the American public about the importance of wearing masks, how it can save tens of thousands of lives. We take a number of COVID precautions, as you know, here in terms of testing, social distancing, mask wearing ourselves as we do every single day. But I don't know that I have more for you on it than that.
But as Joe Biden often talks about, it is not just important the example of power, but the power of our example. Was that a good example for people who are watching who might not pay attention normally?
Well, Steve, I think the power of his example is also the message he sends by signing 25 executive orders, including almost half of them related to COVID. The requirements that we're all under every single day here to ensure we're sending that message to the public. Yesterday was a historic moment in our history. He was inaugurated as president of the United States. He was surrounded by his family. We take a number of precautions, but I think we have bigger issues to worry about.
Bigger issues to worry about there at the end. Boy, she really hit all the notes. Okay, so David, I just want to run through mine really quick.
No, I don't want you to.
I'm not going to say anything about other than to point them out.
No, okay, go ahead.
Okay, just to point them out. Okay, first of all, right off the top, it's all about messaging. Okay, well, your messaging was X, Y, or Z. Doesn't matter. It's all about messaging. Second one. 25 executive orders. Are they constitutional or not? Doesn't matter. He signed 25 executive orders. Therefore, he's taken action. Okay? And then the last one. We have bigger fish to fry. Bigger fish than the 300,000 Americans or whatever that are dead, that are all in the hands of Trump. Bigger fish.
300,000.
And then the overarching meta takeaway I want you to direct your attention to, dear listener, is the meta takeaway is that she never answered the question. If you have to rewind this and go back or go to the link on the show notes page and watch this video as many times as you need to watch it, she never answered the question. And now, not only is she now a mouthpiece for the most powerful politician in the world, the most powerful political position in the world, period. That's how she talks. And tell me, damn it, if that isn't how almost every single politician talks. They never answer the question.
They never
That's the meta.
actually answer the question.
So, David, what were your takes away from that video?
My
Takeaways.
takeaway from the video is that's how you find yourself in a 20-year war. When you become relaxed within the fact that you'll always be able.
That you'll just say whatever you need to say to continue to do the thing that you wanted to do, whether you're allowed to or not.
Correct.
Constitution be
when
damned.
You're always
the American
able,
people be damned.
When you're always able
you're going to do whatever you want to do.
to be comfortable.
We're paying taxes to pay their friends 10, 100, 1,000 times more than they themselves get. But the trade-off they get is the power, the prestige.
Go ahead.
So, and I'm loving the flow of this episode because this translates well into the third and final clip that I wanted to play, right? So the first point where it's kind of joking around, ha ha ha, you know, dad hugging the country. Then it's like, oh shit, dad might be kind of a dick. He might be a little serious, right? Doesn't follow his own rules because he knows that, you know, he can always live off the rest of us.
Dad's already feeling this flow.
So dad's slowly turning into Superman, into the world's most evil person. And now let's see what dad is in his full manifestation. This is a quote from John Brennan, former director of the CIA, on MSNBC Live, and what he thinks about certain groups within the United States.
On the call, I was thinking today that this is the most relaxed I've been in the course of many inaugurations I've watched because I'm not responsible for it. But I can tell you that when I was in the government, I had white knuckles because of the nature of the threats. But it's so much more difficult today because of what we have seen, not just over the last 2 weeks, but that certainly has riveted our attention, but because of this growth in polarization in the United States and domestic violence in white supremacist groups. So I know looking forward that the members of the Biden team who have been nominated or have been appointed are now moving in laser-like fashion to try to uncover as much as they can about what looks very similar to insurgency movements that we've seen overseas, where they germinate in different parts of the country and they gain strength, and it brings together an unholy alliance frequently of religious extremists, authoritarians, fascists, bigots, racists, nativists, even libertarians. And unfortunately, I think there has been this momentum that has been generated as a result of, unfortunately, the demagogic rhetoric of people that's just departed government, but also those who continue in the halls of Congress. And so I really do think that the law enforcement, Homeland Security, intelligence, and even the defense officials are doing everything possible to root out what seems to be a very, very serious and insidious threat to our democracy and our republic.
David, take it away.
How could I possibly take it away from that? Like, he just equated all of the things that you've been hearing for the past 20 years of my life to a third party. Like, everything that we've been fighting for the past 20 years of our life.
Not all, this is the classic Zaps and Zoodles thing. Not all libertarians are Libertarian Party members, but all Libertarian Party members are libertarians. At least they claim to be.
Sure.
So there's a distinction between large L libertarian as the party, small L libertarian is just somebody with libertarian principles.
I want to attack.
So he's not necessarily talking about the party in particular. He could be, but he's not, when he says libertarians, he's talking about, general non-aggression principle. Like if he even knew that that's what a libertarian was, which he clearly does not.
True.
But so yes, I just wanted to throw that part in there. No, I agree with you. The list is outrageous, and I want to spend most of the time on the list because the list, the list in and of itself is super instructive. But the few things that I pulled about that was, the Biden administration is moving with laser-like focus, right? What's that signaling to you? Well, they're only going to go after the ones that really deserve it. They're not going to cast this wide net that catches a bunch of people that shouldn't be in it. They're going with laser-like focus. So that way, in the future, when we start rounding people up and we start saying, well, that seems kind of a broad sweep. My neighbor Bob didn't seem like that bad of a guy, but they hauled him away in the middle of the night. No, citizen. They're moving with laser-like focus. So you didn't know stuff about Bob that really made him deserve it. He put up the wrong Facebook post, and now Bob's off to the gulag. So that's the first thing. Second thing, equating it with an insurgency. First of all, that's just fucking rich, right? He, of all people, should know what it takes to build an insurgency based on foreign conflicts because they built and funded insurgencies with U.S. taxpayer dollars.
A former member of the CIA.
The director of the CIA. Former director of the CIA. Okay.
So he's equating.
So again,
if we can pull this back, hold on.
But I want to spend most of the time on the list. So
I understand, but he's pulling all these extraneous views to equate them to the non-aggression principle of libertarianism.
Assuming he even knew what that was.
Sure.
If he even knows what the principles are. What I'm saying is people like John Brennan, and I say this in no uncertain terms, these people are literal mental marginals. They would never say, the reason why they hate a competitive environment like the market is because they'd never survive in it.
I'd argue
if they don't have power to argue against it, they have nothing.
I'd argue against it because they are absolutely concerned with what is coming from our campaign. They are trying to mitigate what comes from
the liberty movement in general.
They're trying to mitigate logic.
My whole point about the insurgency thing is it's kind of rich, and yeah, he should know. So if he's saying, "Oh, this looks kind of like an insurgency," I wonder why he has such an, intimate familiarization with what an insurgency is. And no, it's not just because he's the director of the CIA. It's because he spent a career creating them. And I'm supposed to think that any insurgency movement in this country isn't possible of being created on domestic soil. I'm just saying, like
he has a detailed knowledge of them.
If you have an IQ above room temperature, this doesn't seem like that much of a stretch.
Okay? He has a detailed knowledge of them.
I'm gonna skip over the list part because I want to come back and we're gonna end on the list.
He created them.
Right. And then he takes it not just laser-like focus to insurgency groups. He says, he references past political leaders. Obviously, he's talking about Trump. And then he says, current elected members of Congress now. You know who John Brennan is talking about when he says that? And he'll deny it till the day he's dead, but we all know what it is. He's talking about Rand Paul. He's talking about Rand Paul, who grilled him in front of committee hearings about what the CIA knew, when they knew it, whether they were engaged in this nefarious act or that one. And John Brennan lied straight to Rand Paul, straight to the U.S. Senate, and straight to the American people multiple times. He hates people like Rand Paul. Yeah, it's easy. Trump is the easy one. Oh, he incited a riot, and he's the bad one. But when John Brennan says even current sitting members of Congress, that's who he's talking about. He's not just talking about Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz, who kept pushing the narrative of election fraud. He's also talking about people like Rand Paul. And that's why the list is instructive of who he included on that list. And the last thing before we get back to the list is he wraps it all up at the bow at the end with that catchphrase. We're going to root it out because it's destroying our democracy. Okay? Civics 101 lesson, John fucking Brennan. This country is not a democracy. It never was. It's a constitutional republic where the government's powers are subordinate to the rights of the people, which is enshrined in this document. If you break it, you've broken the contract with the people, and you no longer have any more just authority to rule. That's a constitutional republic. A democracy is just two wolves and one lamb voting on what to have for dinner. Just because 51% of the people wanted to rob from the other 49 does not make it legitimate in a constitutional republic. But if you shroud it as a democracy, then you can get away with whatever you want. Just manufacture your consent. So that's what John Brennan is afraid of losing. He's not afraid of losing what America stands on. He's not afraid of constitutional principles being enforced. He could care less about that piece of paper. He's worried about losing his power.
Control.
Exactly. That's what he's worried about. But to go back to the list, because we had a lot to say about that one, the list ties the whole thing together. Because now, as David was saying earlier, people who just rigidly believe in and apply the non-aggression principles are now the same thing as fascists, racists.
What is it?
Religious fanatics, nativists, bigots. I think I pretty much got the list.
Hold on. But dude, there's pamphlets.
Talk about one of these things is not like the others.
There's a pamphlet that's shelled out within. I mean, I was raised as a Catholic, so I'll speak to it as a Catholic. There's lists of people you should vote for within the Catholic theory.
You're talking about like the College of Cardinals for the Pope?
They print out the people that you should vote for to adhere to your religious acumen, which equates it down to a one-issue vote.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Right. How do you control somebody?
Well, and then, get you to buy into the lesser two evils meme.
Exactly.
And then you'll never question the system.
Exactly.
Right.
So what they're trying to tell you is that you're morally obligated.
I think your brain's on overdrive right now.
I'm trying to say all the things that I'm trying to say, but it's
coming out very
It's coming
slow.
because it comes down to
power, and it comes down to absolute power corrupting absolutely. There's a reason why cliches are cliches, right? Because they get said so much. And they still have that, even if they start to get overused, they still have that kernel of truth that everybody hears it and goes, yeah, okay, I see.
It's a snake eating its own tail. It's like, okay, so the Democrats are the snake eating its own tail. Fine.
Okay, I don't care about the parties, though. I'm talking about the overarching thing, no matter whether you're Republican, Democrat, Libertarian Party, or anything else in between. The point is, if you have this mental lock on your brain that you think that this entity called the government is, again, back to the whole point of the episode, it's tantamount to a religion. And because it is, and because so many people look at it, they let these things just skate by, and they start to say things like John Brennan said, in defense of it, and in order to aggrandize it, in order to solidify their position within it. Again,
to convince you.
Use the list to think about the other points about the video. Think about how wide the list is, but he says they're going to have laser-like focus. Those two things seem to be incompatible. Think about his conversation about insurgency and that there can be multiple insurgency groups in one geographic area.
Lose a
And then
whole fucking
they do
circle.
that in the domestic United States, and they turn these insurgency groups on each other. Think about the last 2 episodes David and I talked about people needing to talk to each other. If you want to, if John Brennan wants to classify BLM as an insurgency movement and wants to classify the Trumpers as an insurgency movement, what are they trying to do to those two movements?
They're trying to
get
keep
them to
them
not
away
talk
from
to
each
each
other.
other. Exactly, to fight each other.
What would happen? And just
And the last 2 points about how the list is applied.
altruistically, what would happen if those 2 points joined? What would happen? Now you have a faction of the entirety of America.
Right. Then you have them legitimately scared about whether or not they're exercising their power
And
justly.
that's all I'm saying.
And that's what they're afraid of.
Right.
And, but again, continuing with the list also, think about the list in the context of when he says sitting representatives. Yes, he's talking about Josh Hawley, who trumped up the election fraud charges, but he's also talking about Rand Paul, who questioned him on his foreign policy decision and his spying on American citizens without due process. All of those people are represented in that list that he said before. You want to say Josh Hawley is a white supremacist, nativist, or whatever bullshit the left wants to call anybody on the right. They're not making fine distinctions either. But then you have the Libertarian, the one who's saying, are you sure we spent all this money in the Middle East and that was good for American security? He doesn't want to answer those questions. And then the root out democracy point. I mean, come on. If you can break everything down to a list and just pit all the groups against each other, then what group is going to stand up and say, I don't care if 98% disagree with me. This violates my constitutional rights. More importantly, my natural rights endowed to me by my creator. I'm not doing it. Well, that person goes to jail or off to a gulag or whatever.
That all applies to the inaugurational.
If the list is too wide, there's got to be a phrase here. So there's a shirt phrase here, and I'm going to think about it while you talk.
Please. But all this ties back to the inaugural. Can't take that. Take it back. Number 2. Yeah. Go ahead. The inaugurational process. This is the first inauguration, if I'm not mistaken, that had military guards.
It's literally like all of the evil, like, think about when the Emperor's installed in Star Wars and all that kind of stuff. It's always like them on the steps in front of like leagues and leagues of soldiers.
Hold on. It's wherever they hold it. There's supposed to be a huge congregation. That congregation was replaced by 25,000 defenders of the state. And what happened to them after that?
Well, as soon as their usefulness was out to, inject enough fear into the people that Capitol Hill riot number 2 is going to happen, they were kicked out and made to sleep overnight in parking garages.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So
once the state was done with them, they're just
if that's the new norm, and that's what we're supposed to feel comfortable with, what are we moving forward towards?
Well, I just want to end with a Facebook quote. It's a paragraph. And it's not mine. I did not write it. I do not have authorization from the person who did write it to read it, so I'm not going to say his name. I do want him to know that if he hears this later, he's like, hey, that sounds a lot like, I will happily give you credit by name at some point in time, because I admit that these are not my words, but you stated it so much better than I could have that I want to finish off this episode with it. For my part, I'm sure you might have something to say. Okay, so he writes, watching these politicians participate in this ceremony alone with no crowd of peasants cheering them on is surreal. You know, the storming of the Capitol building brought up images of Gaddafi and Saddam in their minds, the politicians. Deep down, they all know they're the biggest group of thieves and murderers in the world, and they know that if they lose control over the mob at any moment, justice could come for them. So here they are in a secure location with 25,000 troops guarding the Capitol. 10 times the number deployed in Iraq or Afghanistan. Swearing in the quote-unquote, or they didn't put these quotes, I am, swearing in the most popular presidential candidate in history, while hiding from their own constituency like the blood-soaked cowards they are. I mean, that pretty much sums it up. So,
I mean, what can you say from that? Like,
I mean, they absolutely
again,
are. He hit the nail on the head.
We're going to hypocrisy at its finest of definitions. It's you protected us. So if we can even take the inaugural ceremony at its face value, you said, thank you for protecting us. You served your duty. Now go sleep outside in a concrete shelter. Shelter bunker. Call it that.
In a not super northern state, but it's northern enough, and in January it's not too warm.
30 degrees at night, maybe lower.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe they had space heaters in there. I don't know what the sleeping accommodations were.
Maybe.
But the point is,
but that just harkens back and it hits both of us for our history right at home. It's like you serve your duty. Now you're no longer functional.
You're expendable. Exactly. You're just a number.
Exactly. So it's like, if you don't already see this, and then I think we saw, I don't know if it's been refuted or not, but the fact that we've deployed units to Syria within 2 days of his presidency.
Yeah, but I saw a report from Reuters on that. However, they did mention that this is something that happens from time to time where they need to get supplies into the troops that are still stationed there. But yes, within roughly 48 hours, there was a large U.S. convoy entering, I believe it was northeast Syria, within 48 hours of Biden being inaugurated. So
not to,
this is the return to normalcy we were promised.
This is
hooray!
This is not to shit on your parade, because God knows he's the most empathetic president that we've ever had. But
God bless bipartisanship.
I just want you guys to know that we're still here. We're still speaking truth. And if you can hold on a little bit longer, just hang in there, I guess. I don't know.
David, I never thought of the phrase for the shirt, but maybe one of the listeners will have a good idea to put in the comments on the at wmdpodcast.com/28.
Oh,
that's who should come. You should be like, yeah, that phrase you wanted on a shirt, this is it. And we'll give you royalties. I'm going to put that out right now.
Sure. Royalties.
Yeah, we'll track how much that shirt sells, and you will get a kickback because you are the original.
I mean, if you thought you were scared during COVID-19 under Trump's regime, like, this is the time, like, don't fall asleep. Don't fall asleep.
Yeah.
This is where it sneaks in.
At bare minimum, stay awake, stay vigilant.
We're not affiliated with the Proud Boys. We're not affiliated with Antifa. We're not affiliated with QAnon.
We're
in this time, Dane.
But we're libertarians, so it's like we're pretty much the same thing with all of those things.
Well, of course, Libertarian is the third party. How could you ever vote against the Democratic or the Republican?
We did really good in the last two episodes, and David, we went entirely too damn long on this episode. Too long. I mean, not for the listeners. I'm sure they'll be fine. A couple commutes will get it down, but we're gonna go broke, my guy.
Yeah,
you gotta rein it in.
Well,
I don't even think I would fall for this one.
How can we subjugate us going broke? Please tell me, Dane.
Well,
because my fiscals are plummeting.
You can buy aforementioned shirts, not the exact aforementioned shirt, because as you remember, I couldn't remember the quote, so we don't have that one yet. But other aforementioned shirts and
all the ones that come before it and after it, and
you can join up to donate, one-time donation or monthly, in which you get special bonuses. All of this is found on the Support Us tab of the website, wmdpodcast.com. And most importantly, for not an extra dime out of your pocket, here's how you can support the show. We're going to have an Amazon affiliate link up there. So as long as you click on that link, go to Amazon, buy whatever else you were going to buy. Don't have to buy anything that has anything to do with the show.
It's not even a little bit of value.
You could go buy things. David, give me two products right off the top of your head that are the most different from each other.
Dildos.
I knew it.
And pantaloons.
Those are not
dildos
that
and
far
boxers.
apart, but
Dildos and boxers. If you want to buy a dildo, click on the site. If you want to buy boxers, click on the site.
you're not going to find those things at our website. We're saying that if you
Do
buy
whatever
those
you
things
want
at
with the
Amazon,
do whatever you want with the dildos. I don't
We-
care. Just put them up as a stanchion. Like, this is a horse with dildo.
we will get.
This is a
David, can I talk
maybe.
so they know what the key point is?
Sure. Why not?
We will get a portion of whatever your Amazon purchase is. So if you do nothing else, but you like the content that we put out, you'd like us to put out more of it, longer episodes and more shows a week, and just generally be in your face more often than we currently are.
If you
Do
want
your
a little
Amazon shopping link
semblance
there
of
and
sanity
we can make some money.
injected directly
Get
into
this
your
thing going.
cerebellum.
So thank you. Quit treating the state like a religion. It sucks. David, what's your sign off?
Do I have a sign off? There
I
it
don't
is.
know.
There it
But
is.
my numbers,
Do I have a sign
my
off?
digits is floating over the stop button.
Well,
You're on the
press it.
spot. Don't
Press
blow it.
I'm blowing it
All
right
right,
now.